In the previous video, I didn't finish about the typecasting in the example. So here actually we have example 5 and example 6 for your reference. So I want you to try both example. But one thing I want to show you is for the example 6. So let's try the example 6, run from Cloud 9. So this example is, we see here, we have one variable called number. That's an int data type. So I can assign the value is 65. So then when you see out, you will see they will display 65 in the console. But one thing is, like we say, you can do the data casting, right? So that's why the data casting we want to do is, I want to convert from the int data type to the char data type. So then if you do like this, right? So when they see out to the console, actually they won't display 65 anymore because 65 is int data type. So then when we convert the int to the capture data type, so they were using the value they are holding is 65. Then they convert to the ASCII value because ASCII value 65 means the uppercase A. So after you convert your int data type to the character data type, they will according to your value and match to the ASCII value to display. So that's why you run this program, you will see when they output the 65, that's the original value from your number you assign. So from here, the number variable still is int data type. But then when we display again, but now I make this int data type convert to the different data type. That's the character data type. So then they will convert from this value 65 to the character. So then equivalent to the ASCII value is capital A. So that's example about the data type casting. So sometimes you can have the lower data type to cast to the higher data type. So then you can have the lower data type cast to the higher data type. So either way you can convert between each other. So after we finish the type conversion and type casting, we will talk about the last topic we want to talk about before our lab exercise. That's what we call the formatting output. Because sometimes when we see out to the console, right, we want them to show in a table format. What means the table format? So we see the example from the Cloud9 output. You see here, for example, sometimes we have the matrix, right? We have the 3 column, 3 row. So then each one, you see, we want them have each column, they have the same width. Each column, they have the same width. So that's why we see they will be in the table format. So how we will make for different number, you see we have each line, we have 3 numbers. But these 3 numbers, actually each number, they should have the specific width. Then we can in the table format. So that's why sometimes you using the Excel table, you will see they are in the table format. So can we do that in C++? We can. We just need to specify the next value I display. I need to set up the specific space, or we say the specific width, so then they can have occupied the same size for each column. So that's what we want to talk about is we need to introduce you a new header file. We call the iomanip. So this iomanip, after you include this header file, they can control how the output you want to display, no matter that's the numeric data or a string data. So they can decide the size. So the size here, we can say actually that's kind of is the width. So the width for that value you want to display. And we can decide the position. So usually the position means the value you want to display, they will align to the left or align to the right. Because usually, I give you the space. For the numeric number, I want to align to the right. But for a string, I want to align to the left. So that's the position. And also sometimes you have the double number, right? The number with the decimal digit. So then you can decide how many decimal how many digits in the decimal you want to display. You want the 2-digit in decimal or 3-digit in decimal. They are all in the iomanip header. So after you include the iomanip header, actually we will show you a couple different functions. So the first one we will call the setw function. So this setw function is the function name called setw. So the parenthesis, then you will have a value. Here we show x, but this x you can replace with 10, with 15, with 18. So this setw function used to control how an output field should be displayed. So I want to display a value. I want to leave the width for how many, here is the x space. So this x actually represents how many, what is the width. On the other hand is how many character space you will have. So using more space if the field is not wild enough, they only affect the next value display. What does that mean? We see the example like here. Okay, so this one actually is earlier the table format I showed you from the Cloud9. Okay, so here I just show you the screenshot. Okay, or let me post that we can see from Cloud9. So we see we run this program from Cloud9. That's in the chapter 3, example 8. So like we say, when you want to using the setw, we need to include iomanip library. So since we want to display the output, so I include iostring. So remember here is I have like the matrix. I have 9 number on 3 times 3 number to display. So each number I call num1, num2 for the variable name. They are all integer. So here from line 11 to 13, you see I only have one statement. So then they just using the comma separate each variable assigned with the value. So now remember we want to have the first 3 numbers displayed in one line. And each one they should have a specific size. So here we just say we want to set W6. So this one means I want to reserve 6 space. So then you will see here, like earlier we showed you, your setw, the space you specify only affect the next value you display. So you see num1 is 2897, right? So then they will display this 4 digits, but total with the 6 space. So the same thing since I make each number they are 6 space. So then they work for each variable. Also you see here you need to set W6 one time associated with one variable. Then continue set W6 with the next variable. So then set 6 for the third number. Okay. So remember earlier we said we want to have 3 numbers in a line. So we display end of line. So then you do the same thing for the second row. The same thing for the third row. So you will see each variable, you need to set the W for each one. So after what you see here, we can run the program. Okay, so that's earlier we show you, you see here. Each one, they have the 6 space. So when we say 6 space, where's that 6 space? If you don't specify by default, after you set space right, they will align with the right, to the right. So that's why you see here when I highlight, this one is the 6. They have 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6. So then you see because they start from the right, so they occupied 4 space. Then you have 2 more here. Then the same thing you see 5. Again, you see here is my highlight. Here is the set W6. But because 5, we align to the right, so we start here. So after this digit for the 5, So then you see the total space is 6. So here actually have 5 space before that. So that's our example for the set W. So the next one I want to show you is the set precision. So earlier our set W is for the field, how many space. But set precision, the same thing, you have the X, right? So this value is specify how many digits after the decimal. So after the decimal point, how many digits? Okay, so that's why here, if you have set precision, for example, we will see the next example, example 9. So when I have the output, okay, so we just say, for example, you see here, we ask the user to enter the sales for each day. So the sales is 1287.5. So you see for all the money, right? So we know money sometimes you can be integer, but most of the time you have the cents. So we have 2 digits in the decimal. So how we will force, they will display 2 digits in the decimal. So that's what we do the set precision. So this set precision, actually we just need to set one time. So when you have CL, the set precision on one time, you see here the 2, right? So then they will make all the number afterward, they will display 2 digits at the end, 2 digits in decimal. So that's why you see here, even I enter 1287.5, but when they display, they will display 1287.50. So here you see 65, right? So then they have 2 digits in decimal. But you see here, when I only have 1432, right? But here they will display 1432.00. So then of course at the end, they try to get the total for that. So then they will display 2 digits in the decimal. So that's the whole program again. So this whole program actually the same thing, you include IOstring, iomanip. So we have the day 1, day 2, day 3 sales, and we have total sales. Because the sales is, you can have the cents, so that will be a double number. So earlier you see the sample output, that's because we ask the user, please enter the sales for day 1. So you see, we show you the sample output, right? So you read from user input, you have 3 sample output. So then after you have a day 1, day 2, day 3, your sales. So then we have the total equal to the day 1, day 2, day 3. Then after you process that, we want to display. You see, here is the output I display. I want to display. This one is, I say, the table format. Because you see here, I want the day 1, day 2, day 3, they have the specific size. But because you see day 1 space day space 1, day space 2, they have the same width. But I don't know the sales. So that's why in order to make them in the table format, I need to have the specific size for my value display. So that's why you see here, when we want to display the sale amount, we display, you see the title sales amount. Then you see here, we have the set precision too, because I know later I need to display some double number. I want them all in 2 decimal in place. And after you have the set precision, please make sure you will associate with the fixed keyword. Because if we use the fixed keyword, they will show in decimal. Otherwise, by default, they're using the scientific notation. So then you see you have day 1 $sign. So then I set the same width for all the cells. So I reserve 8 space for each one. And also for each one value they display, they were in 2 decimal in place. So that's why you see 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This 8 space including the decimal point. So then because 2 precision, so they have 2 digits in the decimal. So that's the iomanip library.